So this is where we're at with the character that was created. So I'm going to use the inspiration of this character in today's episode to figure out uh, some of the visuals of the character. But before we get to that, Sarah wrote down some characteristics of this character. So I'll let you share.
Okay. So this is what I have envisioned based on what you just saw for how we're going to round out this character. They're an adult, late 20s, early 30s. So at that kind of out on their own discovery portion of their life in a bit of a lost space. So this character's first truly solitary living situation. They're not just new to the apartment, they're new to being alone with themselves. So already we have somebody who's first out in the world, uncomfortable, something's happened. We're never going to describe it, but we know about our character because it's important to know things about our character we never mention. That they had some kind of recent loss, right? So, a version of their life, something was going on. They got kicked out of somewhere. They're not where they had something happen that forced them into this uncomfortable space. Um, could be a breakup, could be a death. We're not sure what it is, but we need to know that they are not feeling very whole right now. They're feeling lost inside. Um, Something ended without explanation or closure. So, a core emotional wound, they believe answers exist somewhere, but not where they are now. So, this is somebody who's looking, they know there's answers out there, but they cannot find them. And this is really important. And this is also why the door is going to drive them nuts because they're looking for something to have meaning. Coping style is avoidance, rationalization, and obsession. And obsession is the important part here because that is what's going to drive the story. So they try to solve discomfort instead of sitting with it. They're looking to try and make something better as opposed to just being okay with not being okay. Their relationship to the space that they're in, they want control over the environment. And we're going to make that clear through visuals, as you've already seen that we were talking about last time. Rearranging the furniture is an attempt to regain their agency, right? So they're trying to take over the space, and the room is supposed to be a reset. The door ruins that fantasy, right? So that whole feeling of starting again, getting my life together, getting over whatever it was, the door just keeps getting in the way of that happening. So let me scroll down a little bit.
This is
Okay.
really good. I mean, it's you're painting a really good picture so far of the character. I'm imagining it in my head as you're
Yeah.
going
Thank
on.
you. I think that was the thing is because it seems so simple, right? You're looking and it's this one character in a room, but the more complex we can make this character, the more the horror really hits, right? Because now there's this trueness to it. So the personality traits, they're quietly anxious, they're highly observant, which again is really important. They're not dramatic, they're very internal, right? So they're not somebody who's just going to start freaking out. They're going to sit there and feel it, but we're not going to see them having huge moves. They talk out loud, which gives us a bit of a chance to have a bit of dialogue coming out when there's not another
Mhm.
person there. And they fixate. They fixate on things, which is why the door becomes such an obsession. So, why the door affects them specifically, someone is content or grounded could ignore the door. The character needs it to mean something. So, this is important again to everything we've learned about this character. That is a huge defining fact. And that need is their trap. That need for it to mean something is what keeps them unable to just move on with their life. Other people might just be like, there's a door, it doesn't open, whatever. I put something in front of it, I'm done. They can't. They cannot move on because of the obsession that they have. Okay. And the last kind of chunk is what the door represents. So the door represents the belief that a hidden answer will justify their loss, pain, dissatisfaction, and that somewhere just out of reach is proof that life should have gone differently. It is the physical manifestation of their unresolved grief and the lie that closure exists if you push hard enough. The door does nothing, it promises nothing, yet it consumes everything because the character projects their longing onto it. Once the door is opened, the character story ends, not because the door was special, but because the need for meaning has finally devoured the person who needed it.
That's a lot. There's a lot there. That's great. So even from that, you could almost, I mean, we're just skipping ahead. You can
Mhm.
almost take all that and break it down into like an outline form and to create like a
Exactly.
bit of
Exactly.
script.
the beats of how they move through that feeling. And I think that's the big thing I was trying to figure out was we don't really learn much about this character, but we know a lot about them, and that's going to dictate how you perceive them and how you create them visually is with that knowledge. So again, I know from a writer's point of view, we're tempted to put it all into words, right? To put lots of words on the screen to answer all the questions, but it's much more powerful if a visual can do that and the words are
Mhm.
just there to support where needed. But that's where the work comes in ahead of time. You have to know what's going into the character so that you can properly create a visual that says it without all the words all over the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I approach it, saying it's supplemental. So
Exactly.
the visuals, you as the reader could probably, if the storyteller, the visual storyteller, the artist is doing their job properly, you would be able to kind of get the story without any kind of words, right? You'd be able to
Exactly.
figure out that there's some kind of person that's in this place, and from the visual actions and emotion and where they are located, figure out what's going on someone. And then the words are going to supplement, they're going to exclamate, or they're going to give more context that the person isn't actually uh, being able to show them visually, right? And
Exactly.
that's a really good, that's when it's a good marriage of the two forms,
Mhm.
when you can balance that really well and not feel like you're being taken out of the story.
Exactly. And letting the visual do what it does, right? Don't explain it if a visual can answer it for you.